Your grade 11 June paper 1 consisted out of 4 questions. Everything was algebra related. So let's run through the answers for the first question. For the first few, we had to solve for x. This first question, lovely, already factorized for you. You just need to use your zero product law, which says either the first product is 0 or the second product is 0, but I know most of you at this point would just have gone to x is 3. Question 2, you need to see if you can factorize it. The fact that it doesn't say correct to 2 decimals or something like that probably means that it is factorizable. But you're also allowed to use the quadratic formula. Doesn't really matter. If you try to factorize it, you would have gotten x minus 6, x plus 4. Remember to write that equal to 0. You can't stop writing it. And then your two answers would have been x is 6 or x is negative 4. Question 1.1.3, this is the one where you obviously have to use the quadratic formula, but just first make sure you have everything in standard form. So 2x squared, that plus 4x will become a negative 4x if you take it to the other side. Plus 1 equal to 0 is important. Then your next mark would have been for substituting into the quadratic formula. If you had straight written positive 4 here, or you just wrote 4 squared, it would have been fine also. And then your two answers to 2 decimals, please round correctly, would have been 1,71, and the other one would have been 0,29. Our next question was a quadratic inequality. This one caught quite a few of you out because of this part. So yes, your CVs, and remember to write CV, is x is 3 and x is 2. But this is a negative parabola. Okay, if you multiply that x with that negative x, you would get negative x squared. When you go draw it, you should have been drawing a negative parabola. And then they said for bigger than 0, so positive, just this portion over here. So x is between 2 and 3. Alternatively, you could have changed this. You could have taken a negative out so that you can have this bracket being in the normal form, and then you divide by a negative. When you divide by a negative, this will still stay 0, but the direction changes. It's asking for less than. Okay, do you see this is the same answer? Okay, so be on the lookout for that. This was a tricky one. And the last question that was about solving for x, there's another question in the question though. So here we see it's a surd question, and the surd is just this portion. So before we can go any further, and if you don't do that, you get 0 for this question. You have to isolate the surd. So you need to make sure to take that minus x over. And now you can isolate the surd by squaring on both sides. Remember, a surd and a square cancel one another out. That's the whole purpose of this. And then you multiply this out. Remember, it's 2 of the same brackets. So you have 3 terms as an answer. Take everything to same side. I would move these two just so this stays a positive, but it doesn't really matter. You go factorize. So you get answer x is 0 and x is negative 6. Then you always go test your answer because it's a surd. There's 2 places where you check your answers. So with surds and with fractions. The reason for fractions is your restrictions, right? So you don't divide by 0 and therefore have undefined. So you go test it. You go to substitute 0 in there and see if you get 2. Yes, you do when you put it in your calculator. But when you substitute negative 6 on this side, you do not get 2. So you just change that to not equal to, or you can say NA underneath it. And then our last question for question 1 was our simultaneous equation, where you had one linear and one quadratic. And we know we have to use substitution. So you need to decide. So it looks easy, and this is probably what I would do, is make y the subject there. So you have y equal to 3 minus 2x. Okay, then I would call this maybe 1 and that number 2. It's not the only way. Okay, you could have decided, I don't feel like squaring. And you could have changed this to x is 3 minus y over 2. But then, of course, you're working with fractions. So you need to decide, are you less for fractions or are you less for squaring? Okay. Then you have to describe what you're doing. You say substitute 1 into 2. So everywhere there was a y in this one is now that thingy. And then you have to multiply out. Okay, this is what I meant by do you want to square, do you want to work with fractions? Multiply out, so you have 9. Your middle term will be negative 12x, and you have plus 4x squared. Multiply x, plus 3x minus 2x squared. So I'm going to bring the 2 over by minusing 2. Add your like terms. Then you decide you want to use quadratic formula, your calculator, factorize, whatever. But either way, whatever method you use, you should have gotten x is 7 over 2 and x is 1, or x is 1, not and then your corresponding y's should have been negative 4 and 1.